The thing that's happened in crypto over the last, let's say, 6 weeks is there has been so much fundamentally positive news, and it's just been buried sort of in the background. We've caused ourselves to ignore it. There's the strategic Bitcoin reserve, there's the SEC pulling back on essentially every lawsuit. There's progress on stablecoin legislation. There's talk of market structure legislation. There was the White House crypto summit. These are game-changing positive developments that should put Bitcoin trading at $150,000 or $200,000 today. It's been suppressed because in the short term, this overhang of the economic uncertainty is weighing on the markets. I think if that is released, we're at new all-time highs quickly, and we're on our way to where I think we'll be at the end of the year, which is Bitcoin 200,000.
Forget everything you know about XRP, and Bitcoin's price potential new regulations are set to revolutionize the crypto market, potentially catapulting Bitcoin to an astounding $200,000. Yes, you heard that right. In a surprising turn of events, Bitcoin's future looks brighter than ever. The catalyst? A dramatic shift in the regulatory environment that could send Bitcoin's value skyrocketing. With groundbreaking stablecoin regulations and the SEC easing off on its legal battles, the obstacles holding Bitcoin back are quickly fading away. Crypto expert Matt Hougan is already making bold predictions. She believes Bitcoin could surge to an eye-popping $150,000 or even $200,000 by the end of this year. The economic uncertainty that has kept Bitcoin in check is on the verge of clearing, and once it does, Bitcoin is expected to soar like never before. This isn't just speculation. The groundwork has been laid, and the stage is set for Bitcoin's most explosive growth yet. With these regulatory advancements unfolding, Bitcoin's path to new all-time highs has never been clearer. Now, let's dive into some revealing moments from Matt Hougan's interview to get deeper insights. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications for more in-depth content. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the video.
I've said before that I think the government has outlawed recessions. I think what's interesting about this particular moment, because you're right, we've been crying recession for 10 years and it's never arrived. The reason it's never arrived is every time there's a little wrinkle in the economy, the government steps in with stimulus, with reduced rates, with other ways of monetary support, which sort of become allergic to any economic pullback, which is a natural part of the economic cycle. I think the thing that has people freaked out right now is, at least from the outside, the Trump administration is saying we're okay with a little bit of volatility. And so that monetary stimulus may not arrive in the way that it has since 2008. My core belief is that it will arrive. My core belief is that the government will blink, that we really are allergic to these economic pullbacks, that we're not set up anymore to withstand that kind of volatility. So I expect maybe even this week to see the government start to blink, maybe at Jerome Powell's press conference later in the week. But if they don't blink, if we're really going to sort of embrace this pullback, this cleansing pullback, then that'll be a challenge for the equity markets and a challenge short term for the crypto markets. I think we'll be okay long term, but I think that's the game that's being played right now. The thing that's happened in crypto over the last, let's say, 6 weeks is there has been so much fundamentally positive news, and it's just been buried sort of in the background. We've caused ourselves to ignore it. There's the strategic Bitcoin reserve, there's the SEC pulling back on essentially every lawsuit. There's progress on stablecoin legislation. There's talk of market structure legislation. There was the White House crypto summit. These are game-changing positive developments that should put Bitcoin trading at $150,000 or $200,000 today. It's been suppressed because in the short term, this overhang of the economic uncertainty is weighing on the markets. I think if that is released, we're at new all-time highs quickly, and we're on our way to where I think we'll be at the end of the year, which is Bitcoin 200,000. So I think there's been this sort of suppression of really good news. If that suppression is removed, I think it's a coiled spring. So in that scenario, I think we do exceptionally well.
Is there anything else that needs to happen to get us to Bitcoin at 200K by the end of the year?
I don't think so. You have these three horsemen of insatiable demand for Bitcoin. You have the ETFs, which I continue to think will have strong net flows this year. You have companies. We saw MicroStrategy buying more Bitcoin. I think the number of companies buying Bitcoin is going to triple this year. I think the game theory is on. It's slower than people maybe want in this impatient crypto world, but I think countries around the world are going to be buying Bitcoin. So there is structurally more demand than supply in Bitcoin. I think all we need is to release this sort of economic gloom that's hanging over us. If we do that, I think it's straight to the race.
Now, if we get to Wednesday's meeting and it looks like it's still going to be rocky roads ahead, we're not going to see much relief from the government here in the United States, what happens?
Yeah, if it's sort of the tough parent, stiff upper lip thing, I think it's going to be more market uncertainty. You could see Bitcoin go back to 72,000 to its previous all-time highs. I don't think there's downside really below that. I think there's a great deal of support right there. In the long term, this good news is not going to remain suppressed. In the long term, the good news will make its way into the market and we will eventually get to where we're going. But yeah, if government officials hold the line that they're okay with economic volatility, that they're okay with a short-term significant pullback in the economy, that they're not going to come to the rescue with at least more relaxed monetary or fiscal policies, then I think, volatility, we're going to chop sideways. We're all going to be frustrated. And that's the game that we're playing. But again, for long-term investors, I'm not sure it matters. Bitcoin is going to get there eventually. Crypto assets more broadly are going to get there eventually. But whether it's like a very exciting spring or a very frustrating spring could depend on what's said, later this week. In the negative scenario, look, I think we could chop sideways back to all-time highs. I think previous all-time highs when we were at like 72. We saw us trade there from about March through November. I think there's a reasonable amount of support there. I'd be surprised if we went much lower than that, but who knows? It depends on how stiff the government is in refusing to respond to this economic uncertainty. But again, I go back to this core point, which there's this structural mismatch between demand and supply. The Bitcoin network is only producing 165,000 Bitcoin per year. Last year, the ETFs bought 500,000. Even if they buy half of that this year, that's more than the new demand. So there is this structural imbalance that I think puts a floor on Bitcoin that's higher than many people sort of expect. I think institutions are still moving in, governments are moving in, corporations are moving in. So there is some space to the downside, but I'd be very surprised. And as a long-term investor, very excited if we had the opportunity to buy below that, because long-term, I think the story is in. There's just too much demand coming into the market. The asset is too small.
Matt Hougan emphasizes that despite years of recession warnings, the government has consistently intervened to prevent economic downturns. However, under the Trump administration's shifting approach, markets could face short-term uncertainty if monetary easing doesn't occur. Hougan remains bullish on Bitcoin, citing promising developments such as the emergence of a strategic Bitcoin reserve and significant regulatory progress. According to him, Bitcoin could reach an astonishing $200,000 by year-end, driven by structural demand exceeding supply. While the crypto market remains volatile, Hougan believes that the positive developments, like a potential US Bitcoin reserve and evolving regulations, will ultimately push Bitcoin to new heights. He compares the current market condition to a dip and rip scenario, where any price dips are temporary and quickly followed by a sharp recovery. In addition to Bitcoin, Hougan highlights Ethereum's dominance in crucial areas such as stablecoins and tokenization. Despite its short-term struggles, Ethereum's long-term potential remains strong. Let's continue with more insights from the interview to understand how these factors could reshape the crypto landscape.
Yeah, dip and rip, I think, is the story here. If we get negative news, I think it's a pullback, but I think there's so much good news that's been sort of stored as dried powder that eventually that will be released. Eventually, it can't be held down forever, right? We have to step back and remember that a year ago, we had Gary Gensler in a very challenging environment. And today we have a strategic Bitcoin reserve and probably market structure regulation. I don't think the market is priced in at all how different those two scenarios are. So yes, if it pulls back, I think it's dip and rip. And eventually we will get to where we're going. Just whether it'll be a frustrating spring or an exciting spring is probably the question in the market right now. I sort of envision that it could get better from what it was. Maybe we could get from sort of a 50-mile-an-hour tailwind to still air, right? Neutral. I really didn't even in my wildest imaginations think that we went from that to, a full gale force tailwind pushing us forward, right? It's really hard to imagine. I mean, a strategic Bitcoin reserve, saying those words before August of last year would get you laughed out of polite company. No one would take you seriously. There's no way the US government's going to hold Bitcoin on its balance sheet until the Bitcoin conference of last year, where that sort of started to enter polite conversation. And now we've gotten that and more. I mean, we have a crypto czar. We have Paul Atkins maybe coming into the SEC, who worked in the crypto market as a lobbyist. It's an unbelievable positive trend. And I think the market hasn't accepted it. They haven't realized how big a deal it is, and eventually they will. Right. So the thing about Bitcoin, which is really challenging for people to accept, is it's a risk-on asset in the short term, and it's this hedge in the long term. If you look at how Bitcoin has historically responded to market pullbacks, on days when the S&P 500 is down 2% or more, Bitcoin on average falls more than the S&P 500. It falls about 2.6%. But if you hold it for a year after that, on average, it's up 190%. Again, it pulls back in the short term because it reacts to these risk on or risk off conditions. But over the long term, its story prevails. What gold is telling you right now is that the world's demand for a store of value asset outside of the fiat system is bigger than it's ever been before. Bitcoin will eventually get its share of that market. So as gold expands the size of the store of value market, for me, the price target for Bitcoin gets higher, right? We talk about Bitcoin matching gold. A few years ago, that meant $800,000 Bitcoin. Now it means $1.1 million Bitcoin. So let gold lead the way in the short term. Fine, it's a safe asset. But what it's telling you long term is Bitcoin is an even bigger deal than you thought it was. And it's going to eventually catch up to that reality. When I look at things outside of Bitcoin that people are excited about, what are they excited about? They're excited about stable coins. They're excited about tokenization. They're excited about agentic AI. If I look at who's the market leader in those three areas, Ethereum has the largest share of stablecoin issuance. It has by far the largest share in the tokenization market. It's the leader in the agentic AI space. If you just look at where the demand is bubbling up, it's still bubbling up on ETH and ETH layer 2s. I'm excited about a lot of the other alt layer 1s. If I were investing in this space, and I do, I would own a basket of them because you don't know who will win long term. But anyone writing off Ether is ignoring the fact that that's where the users still are in the things people think are going to be multi-trillion-dollar markets in the near term. I don't worry about ETH's ability to monetize them. I think one of the reasons that ETH has struggled is it sort of monetized too early. We got $15.99 and we started talking about, revenue and volume and buybacks too early. It'd be like Facebook if it did ads 2 years after it was formed. It was too early. What I worry about are the things that are going to be multi-trillion-dollar markets being built at least in part on ETH. And when I look at those three things, ETH is the leader. So I think it will be fine long term. It could continue to struggle short term, but long term, that's where the users still are by and large in these real world economic entities that are going to be a big part of sort of our blockchain future. So I like ETH from here if you're holding for, the next 5 years. I don't know where it goes over the next 5 weeks.
The cryptocurrency market has seen a wave of rapid developments, with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP showing resilience despite ongoing price fluctuations. Experts like Matt Hougan highlight the massive long-term potential of these assets. While Bitcoin has faced its share of setbacks, Hougan emphasizes that the market has largely overlooked transformative developments, such as the formation of a strategic Bitcoin reserve and positive legislative changes. Once these factors fully take effect, Bitcoin's price could surge, possibly reaching $200,000 by the end of the year. Similar bold predictions are being made for other major cryptocurrencies. For example, XRP has experienced significant price swings, but some analysts foresee it reaching $5 during this market cycle. Ethereum, despite periodic struggles, continues to lead in vital areas like stablecoins and tokenization, offering a robust foundation for future growth. Hougan remains optimistic about Ethereum's ability to recover and thrive, highlighting its leadership in essential sectors within the crypto space. Despite the prevailing economic uncertainty, the overall sentiment within the crypto community is becoming increasingly bullish. Investors are closely monitoring these developments, anticipating that a release of pent-up positive news could trigger a new bull market. This potential surge could drive Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP to unprecedented all-time highs. The coming months will be crucial in shaping the future trajectory of these digital assets. As we wrap up, we want to hear from you. How do you think economic uncertainty will impact Bitcoin's price trajectory in the next few months? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Thanks for watching.